Yeah, one of the funny ones I always love, a good friend of mine, Terry Kawaja, who started his career on Wall Street, and he's now in the ad tech space. And he said he used to go into parties and people are like, hey, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I'm an investment banker. And they'd all walk away. But he is an investment banker. He has his own firm. He deals with ad tech companies and he does M&A and helps them go public. So he's like, yeah, he said, my new line and strategy is when people are like, hey, what do you do? He goes, I make startup founders rich. And then he adds a pivot and a start to walk away. He goes, I'm always the most popular person at the parties now with that strategy. But I'm an investment banker. It's like that's like sort of a painful, boring conversation rather than I make startup founders rich. And like, what the what? How do you do that? I'm an investment banker. Here's what I do.
Okay, I think we've
Right.
nearly got everybody back in. So thank you for that. That was really super useful in our group, Kelly, in terms of the 6 words. So I think everybody's changing their title now, which is great. I know Mary McKenna is going to do a Q&A after I finished interviewing Kelly. So if there are more questions, I know that a lot came through Eventbrite and I can see some coming through there on the Twitter chat, but please do ask them. But I'm going to dig into a little bit more of Kelly's top tips and her advice on the networking journey. So Kelly, you have spoken in your book and several times of pieces that I've read of building your network before you need it. Can you give us a little bit more detail around that, of why that's important?
I mean, the foundation of getting people, the foundation of networking, the foundation of relationships, the wiring of our brains is trust. And having the networks before you need it is now people trust you. They know what you are capable of. They know the type of person you are. So they do want to lean in and help you. They are also, other element of networking, they are willing to use their reputational capital, their relationships, to help you and connect you into what it is that you need to do. So I like to think in life we have 3 primary assets. You have your relationships, you have your reputation, and you have time. Time is non-renewable. The other 2 you can earn back. But when we're networking and when we're seeking help, we are asking someone to use all of those things for us. So you build the network before you need it. So somebody actually says, I have these things and I'm going to put them all at your disposal. How can I help you? If you're the type who doesn't, I'm saying, and building those network, I'm going to get back to like, if you're the type who only shows up when you have a problem, then that's a problem. But, to get people to want to do that for you, that's like an exercise in showing who you are and what your reputation is. So build it before you need it so you can tap into it at some other future point in time, because we do not turn on a dime when someone comes to us and says, hey, you're the right person to help me. Says email goes into delete when that lands in my inbox. So build it before you need it. So if you're looking, so startup founders, nothing worse in the investment community. If you were seeking, venture capital or angel investment, nothing worse than start building the relationships with investors with a pitch deck. That is 99.9% of the time, that's going to be ignored. Dirty secret, VC, investing, it's a relationship game. Start building the relationships before you ask for money. That may be, I don't know, right at the idea stage. Because you're not asking for money, you're asking for your advice. And then they see who you are and how you're executing the idea and what you're bringing to the fore. And then they say to themselves, I don't really care about this idea, but I like the way this person operates, because that's what it's all about. Or if you're thinking about, in a couple of years, I want to change jobs. All right, what's the community? What are the relationships? What are, what's, what do I, if I'm completely changing fields? I mean, the one thing about talking on this subject of networking is I have to eat my own dog food on a daily basis. So I'm not telling you to do something that I don't do or haven't had to do. So when I made, Denise, when I made that career change and decided I wanted to get in law firm management, and I said earlier, I found out these were word of mouth jobs, it took 18 months. And I said at that point in my life, I am never leaving my career this vulnerable ever again. Because I was absolute clarity in a short order of what I wanted to do. I did some informational interviews. I talked to some people. I ruled out things. I zeroed in on exactly what I wanted to do. And then I had to wait for this alignment of a job opening and people remembering me and continually building these relationships so that I was the first person they thought of. And I thought, never again am I going to hazard that kind of personal, professional development journey that in many ways was preventable.
Yeah. And you talk, Kelly, in the book about putting yourself in a position to make things happen for yourself and others. And obviously that's not leaving yourself in that vulnerable position that, are a little bit exposed at a juncture in your career or your business development from an entrepreneur perspective. But you also talk in the book about how you build your network and your online presence and how important it is that they work in unison together with your offline ambitions. And can you explain that a little bit more to the audience? I think it's really important from an online perspective, particularly in the post-COVID or pre-COVID, or I don't know where we are in the COVID journey at the moment, but it now as we're moving in very much into an online networking capacity. But you talk about your online profile working in unison with your offline ambitions. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of been a proponent of this for a long time, and so many people have looked at the digital world as secondary or their personal brand. Sorry, the words that drive me crazy. But I look at this as, all right, who are you? Like right now, we are all here. Okay? Our time is occupied on this screen together. But maybe one of your customers is talking, or one of your friends or someone you worked with is talking to somebody else about you, right? So your reputation and your network and your impact is beyond this moment of where we are right now. Or maybe someone's Googling your company. So to me, I look at this like, we talk about digital natives, we talk about, the analog generation. All of this stuff to me needs to work in unison. Mm-hmm. There's not a behavior pattern that you have online and then a different behavior pattern that you have when you're in person. This is all, to me, an opportunity to build relationships. So be the most human online. Be the person so that when I look at your LinkedIn profile or your website or your Twitter stream, when we meet in person, it's not like, who's that? Right? Like it should be seamless. It shouldn't be like stepping over a threshold of a door and like slamming into something else. It's like the same person. The only comment I've ever had that struck me as, well, it is funny, that was like, me not being who I am in person as opposed to who I am online, was someone who said, you're much taller than your avatar. Okay, well, thanks. I'm glad I'm not this big. So be who you are. Think about online the way you think about in person. And what I mean by that is, we are all, we don't change who we are. We change our communication style depending on the situation. So how you talk to your friends and family versus how you talk to a conference or in a professional work environment versus how you would chat if you were hanging out with really close friends in a pub. So one of those is sort of Facebook, another is LinkedIn, and the other's Twitter. LinkedIn is the office, it's the professional conference. It's, you know, you hold yourself out that way. Facebook is probably more friends and family. And Twitter is the world's greatest cocktail party. So how do you show up on those platforms and listen and talk? And Twitter, as I said, you know, how are you the good guest that other people want to invite into conversations? And by leaving those digital little footprints, right, you are extending your reputation, extending your networking in a really powerful way. And, you know, I know we got some guys here, but I'm going to address this particularly to women. The chance for all of us to be invited into conversations, and this is me being still a bit optimistic on the internet and social networks. We can get into conversations and meet people based on who and what we know. Not, I would say, doors that were closed to us before. The prime example of this is Sinead Burke. And she talked about this at InspireFest. Because of blogging, she could share her expertise. If we didn't have the internet, her love of fashion, like, why would we listen? I'm going to put it in these terms. Why would we listen to her? You know, a little person, you know, from a town in Ireland. What the hell do you know about fashion? Seems that she knows a hell of a lot. But because of the power of her voice in the internet, doors open and conversations started. So, but all of us have that power. So treat this as an opportunity. But if you're sort of thinking, oh my God, but how do I talk to someone on Twitter? Well, would you say it to their face at a cocktail party or in a pub? Maybe not to say it online. So there we go.
And just in that, Kelly, and obviously Sinead is an incredible role model and loved not only in Ireland, but across the world. And I have to say, I got quite emotional when she stepped out for the Met Gala ball in seeing her journey from where she started. And obviously, as you say, building her presence online and fulfilling a lot of dreams and fulfilling those offline ambitions that she had and pulling it all together from in a digital world to walk down that runway was something spectacular.
Well, and
Kelly,
remember, I was going to say, and remember, it took a lot of years for her to become an overnight success. Like, go and look at the original date of her first blog, and how, you know, because people, that's the other thing. This takes time. So invest the time. You're investing in your own career. Investing in relationships is investing in yourself. Like, do it.
Yeah, and one of the great lines of your book, Kelly, that I have to say is that really resonated with me is that you control the effort, but not the outcome. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, you can do all the research and the preparation and, you know, put out the outreach, and then, like, who knows? Maybe the other person's having a bad day. Maybe their cat died. Like, you know what? Like, maybe the person, you're everything they need and a bag of chips or a bag of crisps, but they're just jerks, right? So this is where I'm like, you know what? Be the person you would want to network with. Always be that person. And if the other person doesn't respond in the same way, A, they may be a jerk, or B, they may use technology. Like, for example, people say to me, oh, I reached out to this person on LinkedIn, they didn't get back. And I'm like, well, you might get back to people on LinkedIn. Other people may not do that. So realize that people have got a whole lot of crap going on in their lives. And I would have said this pre-COVID. Realize that they may be busy and distracted. They may be having a bad day, or they may use technology in a different way. So, you know, be observant, watch what they're doing, but always be the person like you would want to, you would want to respond to you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I've talked a lot over time, and I have ranted online about this in terms of blank LinkedIn requests and not following up when people make an introduction for you and not closing the loop. I mean, there's, you know, it's minding, it's one thing to build, but you also need to mind your network. And, you know, as you said, it's reputational capital that, you know, earlier on in the conversation, that you have to be mindful of the person that's introducing you and being introduced to you, and where they've come from, and how important and how long and hard people have invested in their network to be able to do that. So yeah, no, it's a journey. Obviously, Kelly, we have only a couple of minutes before we go back into the breakout room, and obviously we have a lot of female founders on the call tonight. I know not everybody from the AwakenHub community is running their own business, but it is part of the ecosystem, is supporting female founders. What would be the number one tip when networking and fundraising that you could give our community?
When I say, I'll go back to what I said before, build your network before you need it. And on the fundraising, the biggest mistake people make is not connecting with other founders. Most investors I know in the United States and Canada as well, okay, maybe globally, but I'll focus on the US ones. They get their recommendations on investing from their network. And in the hierarchy in their network of who they trust to say, hey, here's something you should look at, are founders, not other investors, founders. Because you know what? If there's a founder that they know and they've invested in, and that founder says, God, I've met this person and their team and they're really awesome. Like, there's something in that investors trust as being a really reliable, useful data point, right? Because a founder recommending another founder is like somebody else in the trenches, building something cool that's caught someone else's attention, somebody else who's there in the community contributing and whatever. So if you're thinking about fundraising, start building that network and like double down on building your peer network. The other aspect of that is from your peers, you're going to get far better information of what's going on. Sorry, Mary McKenna. You're going to get the best information on what's going on. You're going to hear which investors are great, which ones are jerks, who's had experience with them, you're going to get really in the moment information, right? So in my relationship with, you know, a muckety muck founder or something else is going to be different because investor is because I'm talking investor to investor. That's different than like how an investor works with a founder. And that's the shit you need to know. So there's my best advice on that. And I got to drop some swear words.
You did. I'm sure I'm sure when Mary asks you the questions after the next breakout room, you can drop a few more. It's been an honor and a privilege to interview you this evening, Kelly, for the community.
So good.
We're far from over, but we are going to go into another breakout room, and I know Mary has lots of questions from the community to pose to you later this evening. But and hopefully we'll meet again in Dublin in 2021. I think Future Human will be calling us in person, so that we can all get together again. But thank you for the opportunity to the AwakenHub crew tonight, and I look forward to the next breakout room.
So good, Denise. It's like always so fun to talk with you, and hopefully before 2021. Oh my God. Anyway, all right, the next breakout room. Here's the exercise, everybody. One thing you need right now, be hyper specific, and you cannot ask for money. You can't say I need money. No, I want something specific. Because listen, all of us need more money. If Warren Buffett was attending today and you said, hey, what do you need? He could probably say he needs more money. We can all use more money. You cannot ask for money, but what's one thing that would help you right now? And be as specific as possible, because that's easier for your network to help you. Like, I'm trying to sell into, I need to hire a trainee, I need an intern who does X. I would love someone to teach me how to do Y. something hyper specific, not dealing with money. And then everybody, like, see if you can come out and help people in your group.
Super. Okay, the countdown is on. I think the countdown's on.
Yep, there it is.
We're all here, are we?
I'm like afraid to press on mute.
So Elena kind of lost her nut, and she started creating, so she used to have a blog that was like focusing on representation of women. So her blogging, you know, so the articles, she's always highlighting, promoting other people's work. So representation is like her kind of guiding light with her networking and her conversations. So she started creating GIFs of women, of film directors. So if you search film director or cinematographer in Giphy, Slack, the GIF on Twitter, you will see a predominance of her GIFs, because she is, you know, her GIFs have had like over 1 billion views at now. So she's like in different professions, she's like busting down the barriers of what it means and looks like these things. So when you think about the way I talk about networking, that might kind of blur into personal brand or marketing, but isn't that what we're doing? You want to do work with people who, you know and trust. That doesn't come from a single email or a slick marketing campaign, which is more kind of, you know, whatever. That like you do things with people you trust, who live up to their word, who are consistent, who show up regularly. So, you know, think about that. But yes, there is a Mary Carty GIF, and I have now tweeted it, so all defined. So anytime you want to do a picture of a strategist, I had to remember where it was, because I was like, what was it? Oh, it was like strategist. That's it. Yeah. Anyway.
So over to Mary McKenna. Is she there?
She is.
Yeah. Hi, well, thanks everybody for joining us this evening. Quick shout out for Susan Kelly, whose birthday it is today. And she's just briefly joined us before she goes off to drink champagne. So happy birthday, Susan. So I hope everyone's having
Virgos unite.
I hope everyone's having an interesting evening, and it falls to me. I am the person that gets to, I have read all of the questions that you submitted through Eventbrite, and many of them, I have to say, are covered in, if you don't already know this, Kelly writes a blog. She has a podcast that you can sign up for. She runs a networking community, and she has written a book called Build Your Dream Network, which if you haven't read it already, I would recommend that you buy it and read it. And many of the questions that a lot of people asked will be covered by those resources there. So Kelly, I think we have about 8 minutes. So you and me are just gonna go through this at pace, if that's okay.
Let's go.
Yes. So my first question is, a lot of people have asked specifically about how people who are introverts and people that even have like social anxiety, how on earth they are supposed to indulge in networking. So do you have any specific bits of advice for those people, please? First,
Ditch the old definition of networking. Seriously. If you do not confuse people who like to socialize, people with the gift of the gab, and God knows, you know, we're all known for that. Do not confuse that with being a good network builder. So dump the old paradigm of what you think networking is. Think about the things that I want to say give you energy. Think about how you can leverage every single tool in your networking arsenal So that's from your email signature line, your LinkedIn profile, a blog, like every single human interaction and touch point. Then, as Mary already pointed out, pick up my book. And there is, I probably have to find an old copy. There's a case study in there. Oh, let me see. Nasty old cover.
Penguin's stolen it off you, Kelly.
I know, Alan, stay back there. So there's a case study in here. First of all, my book is filled with a bunch of introverts because I didn't know they were introverts. And I just thought they were really good networkers and network builders. And I interviewed them and I didn't ask them if they were introverts, and it found out they were introverts. But there is one in particular. It is the case study at page 75, guy by the name of Joe Styler at GoDaddy. To say he is profoundly introverted and has social anxiety would be an understatement. What Joe is a powerful listener. He's an incredible mentor. He's a ferocious manager of people. He controls what he can control, and he is focused on his own career development. So that social anxiety, he manages it by understanding why he is undertaking a networking activity. So I'll just, on this point, Mary, I just want to share this. So Joe knew to advance his career, there was a big industry organization that he needed to gain a profile in, and he knew he needed to attend their annual conference, which was in Vegas, which is hell for any of us, but particularly for introverts. But Joe understood why he needed to do this, not because this would be good for your career, Joe. He knew exactly why it was good for his career. He understood the consequences of not participating, and he invested in himself in doing it. So for introverts, like I said, ditch the old definition that the only networking is walking into rooms of strangers and making small talk, and then understand every networking activity you undertake. There's another example in here, Manisha Thakur, in terms of building her business, how she's like, I know I need to build a client base. Great, everyone else in the industry does it with steak dinners and sporting events. Where is a networking environment and a network building context that works for me? So newsletters, media, a book club. And that's how she built her practice. So there's my advice on that. Okay.
Well, I'm looking at a screen full of people here that I know for a fact that quite a lot of them actually like Vegas. So, hey ho. So my next question is, do you have to like people to be a good networker?
I think you need to respect them.
Okay.
I think you need to be empathetic. I think we as, and I say this because I had a student emailing me, I think a lot of times, particularly women, we can think, oh, well, I don't like them. I'm like, but do you respect them? Do you think someone's good at their job? Like I had someone once with an angel investment group, Mary, she was like, oh, I don't know if I want to join because I'm worried that my cohort won't be pals like yours was. And I'm like, whoa, time out. We work.
Do you think you have to like people generally to be a good networker, Kelly?
Well, otherwise you're not going to be empathetic and considerate, and you're not going to respect people if you don't like them.
Yeah.
So
this is an interesting question. Is there anything in terms of activities or behaviors in networking that you think people should stop doing?
Asking people out for coffee or to jump on a Zoom. Ask someone for what you need. That's why I was like the exercise in that last breakout to say specifically what you needed and what you were looking for. Because when you think about what you specifically need, you start thinking about who could give me that answer. Now, what's going on in their life, right? Like in terms of the timing of the ask or whatever else. But, to sort of think, hey, can I pick your brain over coffee? Like, no. Ask someone for what you need. This may be, Mary, that my answer on this one maybe come from being in New York. We're just like, tell me what you need. Tell me what you need.
The New York minutes. Yes, I know all about that one.
And then allow the other person to decide how they're going to give you the answer. Hey, it's in my blog. Let's jump on a Zoom. You'll find your answer here. Or, oh shit, it's not a quick answer. Like, hey, let's meet and let me tell you. But this, hey, can we meet for coffee? I'd like to talk to you about, no. And that, it's just, ugh.
I'm looking at the time and we don't have very long, so I'm going to maybe just choose one more. This is one that a few people have asked about. How do you approach somebody when you don't have a specific ask right now, but you know that you want to add them to your network? Any suggestions?
This is like kind of where the internet comes in handy, like the good stalking on the internet, you know, where kind of keeping someone in your periphery. And then this is not reaching out to them and trying to connect on, like, say, on something like LinkedIn, but follow them on LinkedIn, follow them on Twitter, add comments if they're, you know, like, just kind of create your visibility in their orbit. I mean, that's the way I think of it in terms of, you know, and also too, you might think today you want to, you know them. Watching and observing may reveal otherwise, or watching and observing and you being helpful and of service to them may have them to say, wow, thanks for being so helpful. You know, how can I help you? Or tell me more about you. That's how I met Lucy Marcus. We used to chat a lot on corporate governance stuff on Twitter. And then she reached out and said, wow, we should know each other. And we got on Zoom and it was like two lost sorority sisters.
So I am looking at the clock and I do know that Mary-Ann Pierce is going to be tapping her foot there and tapping her watch and saying these guys have gone over time and blah, blah, blah. But I have to ask you this last one. I think it might have come from you, Bridie, actually. But so there's lots of people out there who are female powerhouses and kind of do the same sort of thing that you do, Kelly, but none of them are as successful at it as you are. So what do you think your USP is? Why are you so brilliant?
I've made so many mistakes. It's like nothing like having the career you want, you know, at this point in life. You know, I don't know. I sort of always think of Forbes magazine listed, you listed also, or Denise listed all sorts of accolades before, but Forbes listed me as an up and comer. And that was like 7 years ago when I was 48. And they put my age in the magazine. So, you know, maybe it's just a question of, you know, like finally that anxiousness and frustration I had early on in my career. And, you know, we all know you sort of get older and you're willing just to speak your truth. And maybe it's just getting to that and being like, screw it. But those earlier careers were really helpful because it enables me to do what I'm doing now. So I can just.
That's a very generous answer. And I always think there's nothing like being an overnight success. So on that note, I will thank everybody and I will pass us back to Mary Carty for the last word on this evening.